I'm Jonathan Byrne, and this is the Persuasive Presentation. Let me show you my audience before we get started. Recent history has shown us certain athletes like home run slugger Alex Rodriguez, boxer Manny Pacquiao, world-class sprinter Ben Johnson, all testing positive for performance-enhancing substances, whether it be steroids or other things. Many athletes have gotten caught doping. And with this in mind, there's been a huge push for drug testing amongst the sports industry. And primarily we're going to talk about the Olympic and amateur sports today. Now, according to C. Brennan in her article, Not All Drug Testing is Equal, a sport that involves drug testing has a perception that it is clean. However, she does then turn around and point out that Lance Armstrong never failed a drug test. So I ask you, are current drug prevention policies working? The answer is no. In the best interest of athletes, current anti-doping policies must be done away with. The governing bodies are ineffective, current rules are being broken, and the solution is to replace the current policies. Let's begin by looking at the rule-making organizations. Governing organizations, the first is the International Olympic Committee. They began testing athletes back in 1967. They're suspected of corruption. In fact, Bagley, Clifton, Bryant, and Liu reported in their 2000 Newsweek article, The Drug Charade, of 3 or 4 positive urine samples that disappeared during the '96 Atlanta Olympics. And those were positive tests that just disappeared. They promised much more than they could deliver. Again, in The Drug Charade, they tell the IOC announcing that the Sydney Games, which was after the Atlanta Games, the Sydney Games would be as clean as a ping pong match in a combat. That absolutely did not come to fruition. And then they were unable to identify their abusers. Bagley, Clifton, Bryant, and Liu shared that 27 Chinese swimmers tested positive. The IOC, International Olympic Committee, failed to catch them, but their World Swimming Federation, which is a much smaller organization, was able to determine that that's what was going on. The second body, which replaced the IOC as far as policing for drug doping, is the World Anti-Doping Agency. It was founded in 1999. 5 years after their founding, they published their policies. In 2004, according to Smith and Stewart in their 2015 Harm Reduction Journal article, Why the War on Drugs in Sports Will Never Be Won, the WADA introduced its policies, which include providing drug-free competition, promoting consistent programs, ensuring standardized testings, and having athletes' best interests in mind. They were unable to obtain the endorsements of all participating companies, our countries. In fact, according to Enrica and Pedroza, their report in 2013, Applied Economic Letters article, joining the international fight against doping, approximately 81 out of the 204 countries that participate in the Olympics do not endorse the WDA in their practices. Now let's look at the current state of affairs. And that's that the rules are being broken. They're being broken by the athletes. They'll do whatever's necessary to stay competitive. In fact, Bagley, Clifton, Bryant, and Liu in their Drug Charade, they quote an Olympic swim coach, Don Talbot, who says it's human nature to want to be the best. If the only way to do that is to take drugs, then some people will use them. Main concern is not to get caught. And then they also do not recognize the risk to their own health. Suppliers also break the rules. They are no longer medical professions or professionals. They are not regulated and are involved and may be involved in organized crime. According to Fincor, Van de Ven, and Mulrooney, who share in their conclusion in the 2014 Trends Organized Crime article, the symbolic evolution of anti-doping and supply chains of doping substances, how criminal networks may benefit from anti-doping policy. The more widespread the anti-doping regulations become, the organized crime is taking over the distribution of the substances. Finally, let's look at how to fix the problem. The solution is to educate the athletes. Fincor, Van de Ven, and Mulrooney offer the suggestion of moving away from the zero-tolerance policies and adopting a more health-based program, one that focuses on the efforts of education. Teach the athletes about the present and long-term health concerns of doping. Train them on the alternatives and have them work directly with medical experts. The second part of the solution is to rehabilitate the athletes. Involve medical professionals. Smith and Stewart once again share in Why the War on Drugs Will Never Be Won that they believe the solution requires proper involvement of medical professionals, education of health consequences, and suggested legal alternatives. They need to offer regulated, healthier options, and then enroll them in any necessary rehab programs. Let's once again review what we know. It should now be obvious, in order to keep the best interest of the athletes current, anti-doping policies must be abolished. They need to be done away with, and the governing bodies are ineffective. Current rules are being broken. The solution to replace the current policies has to be put into effect. We as the public use anything from aspirin to Zantac every day to improve our performances. Now, those are regulated by medical professions. Athletes do much the same. They use things to improve their performances. The current zero tolerance policies are taking competitors down the wrong path. In order to maintain integrity in sports, we must do away with current unrealistic regulations. We have to put a ban on substance abuse.